I went back and listened to um Ryan Graves podcast, and basically what he was saying is they like fly out, they see these squares with like translucent sphere around them, and they're all over the place. And then they'll fly back from their training, and then they'll still see them, and then like the next day other people see them too. So theoretically he's saying that these cubes, these dark cubes within a translucent sphere, are stationary for like 13 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
So what is that? Like,
I don't know.
Isn't that a little weird? Right, totally. No, totally. But then what I was thinking about was, what if we really are in a simulation, and these things are like, in a video game
Mm-hmm.
where you go too far, like you go too far, and then it's like, oh, simulation's breaking. You know what I mean?
Right. Or
And
it's like a
are
big,
these things
it's a
really
big pixel that hasn't been like rendered yet.
right? Or right, totally. Or are these things like feeding the code to make sure that our world stays together? Like, why would it be so stationary? We obviously don't know. Like, they could be
Sure.
multiple different things. But if there is like the simulation theory that's going on,
Mm-hmm.
like people think we're in a simulation, right? What
Yeah.
if we really are in a big sim? Because these things are like just stationary there. It's like, what are you doing? Like, my first thought was like, are you holding some piece of reality together?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And like they're all under the water, so like maybe they're patching up holes in like the code.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it's kind of weird. It's like it lends itself to so many different theories, and now simulation theories. Like I could see, like, if we were NPCs in a video game,
Right.
think of it like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then the coder comes in. Like, what would that look like if the coder did come in and like affect the code? Would it look like these UAP things? You know? I don't know.
Maybe. Or it's like it's part of the, like, when you're modding a game, you're adding things in. Weird.
Modding, thank you. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about. Because Halo in the Forge, remember the Forge map,
Yeah.
and then like you have the cursor going around to like
Oh yeah.
edit things.
Yeah.
What if this Tic Tac is a cursor, bro?
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, we don't know, and it's just like coming up, and it's just like
Mm.
fixing the map, and then it goes back down.
Right.
You just like, yeah. I really wonder what, like, I'm just very excited to see what this thing could be. Like, I know, I think this was like last podcast where I was freaking out. I'm like, I think I'm done with this. But now I'm watching, I watched Tenet again and Interstellar, and then it was making me think like, Christopher Nolan, do you know the truth behind what's going on? Because in Tenet, remember, like, you know what I'm saying? Like in, let's actually go with Interstellar first. He was going through the black hole, and then he was in the Tesseract, and he was trying to like change things. And it turned out that the ghost that she saw in the bookshelf was her dad,
Yeah.
but from a different time, trying to give her a message, right? And Tom DeLonge said, like, these ghosts that we think are ghosts in our world are maybe they're just interdimensional beings.
Right.
And it's like, I could see how that's us, because like some theories are that this is us from the future coming back to like change something that we messed up. Maybe it's AI. Maybe like in the future, AI gets out of hand, or like no, we integrate too much with AI, and we're like, we need to go back and like build our humanity again.
Or it's a
You know
way
what I'm
to
saying?
push
Like,
us towards that too. We don't know which way it is.
fair. Totally. But like watching Interstellar and then seeing those scenes. Remember when he's like going through the warp speed, and then he shakes the hand of something? He's like,
Yes.
I shook the hand of an alien.
Mm-hmm.
And then later it's him. You're like, oh, this whole thing could be us.
Right.
You know? And then with Tenet, the way like time was working, right? What they're saying is like the forward momentum of time and the backward momentum of time. Like time is just like always happening, but we're experiencing it in the present moment, right?
Mhm.
That's why you can like reverse time in Tenet,
Yeah.
right? Because you're just jumping into that reality for this thing. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And with that logic, remember, like in the last podcast, I was saying how light is going forward, and that's our perception of time because of gravity. So again, it made me think like, Christopher Nolan, do you know something that we all don't know? Or you're just really into esoteric stuff? I don't know. You know?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is all in his. These are all from the recent movies, right? Or in the, like, after the Batman series. These are all the stuff that came out. Yeah.
Yeah, like Oppenheimer, remember?
Mm-hmm.
It was like And I was like, there's
Yep.
so many rabbit holes you can read into. And I started reading books about it. I'm like, oh, dude, there's like, you packed so much in there.
Hmm.
So maybe that's like the true mark of a great storyteller. It's like you read so much, you learn so much about the world. Actually, Tom Long said this. Like an artist's job is to learn about the world and then regurgitate that understanding back to people so that they
Yep.
can like experience the world themselves.
Hmm.
You know. So maybe like Christopher Nolan's like reading into UFOs, reading into the JFK assassination. He's like, how do I build these stories together to give you a different picture of the world using stuff that you know or like could be real?
Sure.
Like, I don't know if this is just like, do you know what's going on, Christopher Nolan, or are you like, are you priming us as a species? And later on, like, oh, actually, Christopher Nolan was telling us the truth the whole time. Go watch those movies. Go back and
Mm.
watch them, and they'll explain how everything works.
Right. Right. Right.
Or is he just giving us like a great movie? I don't know. What do you think?
No, I think he's learning on like with the interviews I've seen, like with Oppenheimer. It's like he read a specific book. Like he always knew about Oppenheimer or liked Oppenheimer. Like the idea
Yeah.
that we know of him, and then it's like he read a book that was more focused around his life and stuff, and from that came the movie. So the
Oh,
influence
okay.
from the book. So what was in that book, right? Was there like touches to about the Kennedys or
Mm.
things like that? So maybe he's
Right,
still
right,
on.
right, right.
He's going on the same journey as well. He's just reading stuff that this is really
He's like, oh,
good.
this would be a cool storyline.
Yeah.
Yeah, true, true, true. Okay, fair point, fair point. Okay, I'm watching the time, so I'm just gonna jump to the last few things really quickly. Um, NFTs are worthless now. Funny. We just called that from the beginning. It's like, wow, it took all this time to
I
be
don't
like,
like. I think for us in the gaming world, we understand like collect. Is it like collectibles? It's like
screenshots.
or like when you buy things on
Game.
in a game. Yeah, in game credits and things like that. It's like they're
Yeah.
really not worth
Why are you
anything.
buying that? Yeah, totally. Hey man, I spent real money on
No,
Call of
there.
Duty
But I
skins.
think, but
Remember
you
that?
know, yeah, but you know, you're using it for a specific thing. Like we're playing Call of Duty.
Yeah, fair.
Like this is gonna look cool playing with it, right? It's like that's fine. That's an understandable. Like you understand your
Right.
purchase you're making. Now, if you bought an NFT thinking that this is the new way to like gain money, like that, no.
Make lots and
Now
lots of money.
you've
Yeah,
now you
true,
don't
true, true.
understand this world. Yeah.
Fair, fair, like the digital world. But okay. You know what's crazy though? I was so like we were talking about you. It's like UFO fatigue. So I was talking to Tara about UFOs, and she's like, "Well, what's the point of learning about this?" I'm like, "No, it's built in everything that we live by, right? Because if we figure out how to." Because she was like, "Oh, wow, these prices are so high," and I was like, "Yeah, because of the gas and like also the recession and also like COVID and like climate change. There's so many factors, right?" But I was like, if we can figure out how to harness the energy that's being used by these UFOs, we can have infinite energy to create an abundance of stuff, right? But she didn't make like the causal link. She's like, "Oh, that's just so far fetched," blah 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 blah, right? Okay, but then she was like, "I can't believe we're in this like a high recession rate," and I was like, literally, Vish and I were talking about this on the podcast, but nobody is listening to us. Like, but she's like, "How'd you know?" It's like we were listening to economists. We weren't listening to the mainstream. We were like listening to people that actually knew these things. So what I find interesting about
Mhm.
the NFT thing is it's like we sounded wrong until we were proven right.
Right.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But it's like you just need to do a bit of the research. Like everything we were saying is like we didn't really come up with that. It's just like you see the writing on the wall and you're like, okay, that makes more sense than this. That's why I asked you about the Drake thing, right? I asked you about the UAPs and like what's making more sense than other things, right?
Hmm.
And I feel like if you just are willing to put in the time to look at all the evidence or as much evidence as you can, and then look at the most logical, unobjective conclusion, you'll have seen it coming a while. Like I'm not surprised that we're in this recession. We talked about this during COVID, you
Right.
know. And she's like, "Oh, but like how, like because the lockdowns that have this ramification, you know." And then she's like, um, "Yeah, but we're just doing the best we can at the time." But I'm like, we need to start looking long term at everything, because if you just keep doing everything short term, then you're gonna deal with this.
Yeah.
this
But
like,
just a
is it?
technicality
Mhm.
here, we're not in a recession
Okay.
yet. Just an FYI.
Okay, but the all right, fair. But like the high prices,
Inflation.
like
Yes.
inflation, yeah, the ridiculous inflation, right?
Sure.
But it was like they literally said that this is going to happen post COVID.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like economists were saying it, but nobody, like, we were so worried about the virus, so we're like, okay, let's lock down. But then what is that going to do to like the future of the economy? Okay, kick that can down the road. You know what I'm saying? Whereas like,
Well, there's different
like,
ways of looking at it, but
you know what I'm
it's not
saying?
about, yeah, but like were there reasons to do the lockdown? Yes, it's understandable, right?
But okay, but for sure. But what about the money, like the mask thing, the
No, of
vaccine?
course,
Like,
of course.
those are other evidence things. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, but
Good with
those are again, there are reasons. Like, if it got out of hand as it did and killed more people than it, right? Then you would have even more of a problem with your economy later on. Like, these
Fair,
are
fair,
like
fair, fair, fair.
how are you? It depends on how you're looking at it, right? So that's what I'm saying. It's like,
But I wonder what like the disinformation for that was, right? Because with the ventilators, okay, when they were doing the ventilators right away,
Mhm.
even before it hit the news, my mom and sister who are nurses, they're like, oh, they're dead. Like, as soon as you
Right.
put somebody on a ventilator, because it's breathing for you, they knew this. So they're like, don't go on a ventilator if you have this COVID thing, like try and figure out a different way around it, right? And like doctors and nurses knew, but it hadn't become public. So people like regular civilians would be like, I need to put them on a ventilator, he can't breathe. But if you're like, actually, if we do this, there's a high chance they're gonna die because your body stops learning how to breathe on its own. Like you're using
yeah, there's two things.
ventilator before you.
Again, it's like,
I'm like,
I understand that, but it's like, I think at that point they would have died. Like, the ventilator was the only thing that was keeping them alive.
okay, sure. But like, what I mean by this like disinformation is like propaganda, because during COVID too, when it first started, a lot of like one of my aunts got COVID, and she like did a Filipino method, which is just like putting
Sure.
Vicks Vapor Rub on herself and
Yeah,
like
yeah,
putting
yeah,
a
yeah,
hot thing, and then she like survived it. And my dad was like, "Oh, this can't be that bad." And like that's what my dad was saying. He's like, "Oh, she survived. She's like old, right?" But it's like, but then the news is telling you like mask. Like even Teresa Tam's doing that right now, right? Like mask up. It's time to mask up. And you're like, "Are you sure?"
Mm-hmm.
You know, or like the shots. I'm like, "Are you sure?" I don't know. Like with this whole thing, and
I
with
think the
PhD thing,
thing
it's
is,
just creating more.
yeah, I know. But again, that's COVID is a whole different thing, because you're looking at the whole world, right? You've got
It's
the numbers
baked in,
from the
right,
world,
but
right?
for sure. But I feel like COVID is a microcosm of the macrocosm. It's like that small example made me go, oh wait, I need to start thinking about what's going. Like we all run through life assuming that everyone knows what's going on,
I understand.
and that was
Yeah.
more of an example of like actually not really.
Well, it depends, right?
You know?
COVID came in. Nobody knows what COVID could do, right?
Fair, yeah.
So as time goes on, then you start to learn more about it, right? You have to react in a way based on what you know at the time.
Right. But like mass. Okay, so remember when other people were saying that there's like different ways to approach this, and those are people are being labeled as like anti-vaxxers, and like videos are getting demonetized. There's the warning labels, and it's like, oh, it turns out a lot of the stuff that we thought was fake is actually true. So I'm like, what is this?
I don't know if that's true too, though, right? Like, because people would go, because that's maybe the media stuff, or like other people like attacking each other.
That's what I mean.
Yes,
the media.
but people go to their own doctors, and what do their doctors say? That's what people listen to.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Like,
that's generally what it is. Yeah, it's no. Sure, the news is saying something, but you're sick. Are you going to the news, or are you going to your doctor?
All right, for sure. Let me ask you a question. Did you ask your doctor before you got the booster shot?
For the booster shot? No.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I mean. That's you're pushing us down this road where, like, I get what you're saying. It's like if you already have COVID, you're freaking out, but still, you are listening to mass media and whatever mass media says.
Sure, I understand that. Yeah,
like,
but mass media. But the other side was also like, what were those like STEM things or not STEM things, like something that I forgot what Joe Rogan was mentioning, but like these things
Yeah.
I forgot what it.
Like the heart dewormer or something
No,
like
no, 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 no. There was like monoclonal, some mono
that. Yeah,
something. What do you call those?
monoclonal
Yeah, yeah,
antibodies. Monoclonal antibodies.
yeah. But like people are asking for these sort of things because you're listening to that, but you don't know if those are even actually going to work. Also, those are very, very expensive, right? And not everybody could even get to those things, right? So there's another thing. It's like
fair. No, totally. But like the reason why I didn't get the booster was because I did the math just off calculation. Remember we were talking about on the podcast where it's like, wait a minute, what's a negligible amount, right? It's like, okay, this will support you 1%. So I was like, well, what the hell is the point of getting another one? If the like, I can't remember what the exact calculation was, but when we ran the numbers, it was just like total amount divided by. It was like such a simple division, and it was like such a 0.01% fatality rate or something, or like increased immunity or something. So I was like, what's the point of getting the shot then? But then media was like, oh, you guys gotta get it, you guys gotta get it, you guys. And I was like, I'll only get as much as you force me to get in order to travel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I feel like everyone got it. Like everyone knew got it. Surprised to everyone that thought I got the boosters. I did not. But like, because a lot of people was like, yeah, I got the booster. Because it was the hate. People were like, oh, you didn't get the booster? Oh, I'm so mad at you. You know?
Yeah, I think that's the problem. Yeah.
That's marketing though. That's the massive.
Of course, yeah, sure.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
See, like UAPs, this, Drake videos, YouTube, podcasts. It's like we need to figure out a way to vet the information